to start the show, or else we would just fucking talk.
Okay, well, it started.
All right, we're doing it.
Actually, there's no viewers yet, so
Yeah,
it's not really
we're just waiting for it to catch
It
up.
takes the couple seconds to come behind. Oh, also
because they want to be here for the commercials.
Also, there's like there's a chat going on YouTube. So if I say like, Brandon, ask this question, it's someone from the chat that's going on.
Okay.
And like, we've already had a Viking type character, so I wouldn't be surprised if they start calling you some type of Viking name or some shit.
I'm only second generation American, so.
Really?
Yeah. I'm the first generation not to know Norwegian, though. That pisses me off.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very much a Viking. I even have the T-shirt to prove it.
Oh yeah, well, people will definitely run with that. All right, we're actually starting now.
Yeah,
for real. It's for real.
For reals.
All right, guys, welcome. That's how
really loud.
All right, guys, welcome to number 56 of the From the Ground Up podcast.
Can we stop that, please?
All right. So, guys, it would be awesome. This is.
It'd be awesome.
We have these shirts for sale. We just had a new launch March 1st. Everything's up on the website.
Oh, I should have worn
you
the
should have
Reptile
wore
shirt.
the shirt that we launched that you're supposed to be wearing right now, but you didn't, and that's fine.
Can I go get it?
Yeah, I mean, no, that's weird. Don't do it right now. But it's like, Rugrats, Reptiles. If you like chondros, there's a chondro shirt. If you like indigo snakes, there's an indigo snake shirt. And all the proceeds from that goes to either buy mice, rats, give thanks to the podcast, buy a 6-foot cage for my olive python, pretty please, as well as we have the Amazon links. And all you have to do is follow the links. I put up some herp supplies and some random shit that I like at the bottom of the podcast, at the bottom of the YouTube videos. And if you follow those links and if you buy shit, we get a little bit of kickback from that shit. It's no cost to you, but we get some money.
We should just record this and like put this
put it in the beginning,
in the intro, so we don't have to say it every time.
Right, but like then people will get bored of hearing the same thing. I know that it
is the same thing, just different words.
Ads. They just want to hear me say different ways to sell them to support the podcast.
I'm glad you feel that way about yourself.
What I want to do as far as the podcast goes is support it by always giving you something in return for the stuff you give us. Like, I don't want to exactly take ads. Maybe we will one day. I guess this is kind of an ad, but it's our own ad.
I definitely want sponsorship one day. That's without a doubt.
She's really the greedy one. I really don't care.
But I want sponsorship from like beer people. They don't have to pay me. They can just give me free beer.
What we need is like a 6-pack sponsor. If we could get Lakewood Brewery to give us a 6-pack, but I mean, there's really nothing in it.
A 6-pack every Monday. Yes.
Yeah, that somehow prove that we've gotten people to drink their beer.
Even though we're not drinking them today. We're both drinking new beers. I feel like
Rapture,
we should.
Fusion Brown Ale. What are you drinking?
What am I drinking? Tell me.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay.
Hiccup?
Sorry, someone already named you. They said you're the dad from How to Train Your Dragon, and so I'm trying to Google that right now because I've never.
It is
yeah, yeah, or him, or the dad from Brave. You know that movie Brave? That's the Irish one.
The Scottish one.
Or Scottish. Oops.
How dare you?
From Scotland.
Sorry, see?
They look the same. This is the same person. Well, I guess we're kind of going into this, aren't we?
Okay, well, tonight we have
Travis Johnson from Living Legless Reptiles. He is out there in California. If you haven't noticed, we are 2 hours later because I think we may have a couple West Coast shows going up. But Travis, you have a very diverse collection. So how exactly did you start? What was your first snake?
My first snake was like a lot of other people. It was a ball python.
No shame.
Yeah, I actually grew up afraid of snakes, which is definitely unlike most people's stories. I was really afraid of snakes and reptiles, but I was always fascinated by, exotic animals. Anything that would be put in a zoo, I was fascinated with. And I respected reptiles on the other side of glass. But I played heavy metal all growing up. And when I was 14, one of my bandmates they were all much older than me. They had a ball python, a big adult female, and I couldn't look like a wuss if when he was all, "Hey, do you want to hold it?" And after holding it for a few minutes, I realized, wow, these are really misunderstood animals. Um, and so I started doing my research. Um, about 2 years later, I got my first ball python, and then it quickly grew from there. I was over every weekend, spending my weekends at a little children's museum called the Children's Living Nature Museum in Hobby City. That was curated by a buddy of mine, Toby Derbyshire, and they we had like 200 plus animals there at that facility. And then I was always going into the guy that owned that, his son owned Radical Reptiles. And I was going in that shop all the time. And they were right next door to each other at the time. I later started working for them at both places. I was just doing birthday parties and classroom education at the Children's Museum, and then just helping clean cages and stuff. And then at the shop, I wasn't exactly a manager, but I was basically the manager. Me and a good buddy of mine, Brandon Wheeler, um, of Morelia House, we both kind of managed that shop in a way for a good amount of time. Um, but that's how I got into it. I mean, it quickly grew from one ball python to two ball pythons to I think my third snake was a carpet python, and I got a corn snake, um, and being around in a shop and being at the museum, I got to work with all kinds of stuff. We worked with a 14-foot anaconda. We had 20-foot berm. um, we had some we had all kinds of stuff, rhino, iguanas. I mean, you name it, we had it at the shop or at the museum. So I got a lot of hands-on with a lot of different species. And I pretty kind of quickly figured out, well, I kind of like everything. So my collection's just grown from there. I mean, we have roughly, I think, somewhere in the realm of 100 animals, give or take, and of animals from babies to adults. And then during breeding season, I mean, when we're hatching stuff out, we could have, who knows? I mean, we could break, 150, 200 babies, maybe. I mean, depending on how our season goes or whatever. It's always a mix of stuff. I mean, we work with a lot of locality boas. I've got like Kralkays, Tarahumaras, San Isidro Costa Rican boas, longtail boas, Argentine boas. We have some Candoya, the Solomon Island ground boas.
It's
And
way more.
you're breeding all these this season?
Not all of those things, no. Like we're breeding the Kralkays, longtail boas, the Argentine boas, and the Candoya carinata paulsoni, the ground boas. All of those have either locked up or getting the beginnings of lockup. Boas kind of go more this time of year rather than winter. So they're as we're kind of moving into spring, we're seeing a lot more activity with the Argentines and stuff like that.
Is there a difference between like mainland boas and like something like the Kralkays?
The biggest difference is size. I mean, the Kralkays are like a corn snake. They only get like 3 to 4 feet, and they're I've seen corn snakes literally thicker than Kralkays. I mean, they're really they're tiny little boas. I mean, same with the Tarahumaras. They're tiny snakes. I mean, they live in here at our place. They live in 35 quart tubs.
Wow.
I mean, they're and they're breeding. They're breeding right now while we're talking. I mean, so I mean, they're both in a 35 quart tub together, and they're so they're really really small boas. So that's one of the biggest differences with at least with those two species is just size. Some of like the differences with like the crawl Ks, for instance, or not the crawl Ks, the Argentines or like the longtail boas is the biggest difference between the mainlands is just their look. Argentines are very black with all this like gold and white peppering and stuff, and the longtails are these black and blue and these lots of silver and stuff in them. As where red tails, you're kind of that atypical red tail with a nice gray or silver tone to them. So they're definitely visually very different.
And I've heard about the seasonal feeding of some of the island species as far as them feeding on like migrant birds and stuff like that. Do you take that into consideration in captivity?
I haven't done a lot of how I seasonally feed as far as boas is kind of the same as I do most of my boas or pythons is that during the winter it's usually once a month they get fed, and then the rest of the season they get their typical whatever it is, if it's a rat every 2 weeks or whatever. So I don't do any real intense seasonal feeding like some people do. I mean, like the crawl Ks in the wild are said to only eat these migratory birds that come through on their island for like 3 to 6 weeks of the year, and that's the only thing they eat. And I know some guys that do that. I mean, they feed them 3 to 6 meals, and I mean they feed them like 3 to 6 meals, and that's it for the entire year. I don't have the stones to do it though. uh, but yeah, well, I mean, we'll see how we breed. If they're successful and breed, then I probably won't change anything up. But one of the biggest things I find with working with so many different species is that some cue into different things, and so you have to kind of play with some things. Some things don't, just because it's a boa or a python doesn't mean it's going to breed the same way or take the same cues to get it to breed, and and so you have to kind of, with all the species that we work with, we have to kind of play with things, which is kind of, I guess it's a downside for me as far as breeding goes, is because it makes my business go slower, because as I'm trying to figure out different species, you get hung up and you can't produce the species because you are trying to breed it like it's this species. And so I mean, it's definitely taken me probably longer than if I honed in on one specific species or two or three specific species. But I mean, at the end of the day, I like so many different stuff that I have to have a variety. I can't just say, okay, I'm just going to breed carpet pythons or I'm just going to breed boas. Like, I like too much different stuff to try and do that. Like, I mean, but you do have to kind of, I've had to peel myself back a little bit on some things. That I've gotten projects that I've turned around and sold that because it just wasn't working out for me or something like that.
Yeah, I think we all do that to a certain extent. Like we extend ourselves and then we realize, oh shit, we gotta kind of backpedal in order to be effective in one particular area. But what were you?
Oh,
Yeah, well, I had like I tried to do Arizona Mountain Kings and I cooked them all. So because my reptile
Elevation.
room's too hot. It's too hot, and so
Yeah.
I can't keep them alive. I've I've had the same experience with, and it's not like it's that hot in here. I mean, but they don't like it hot, and they just don't do well. And so it's the same reason why I don't have diamond pythons. It's just
Right.
I don't have any way to keep them cool enough to. Um, I could probably keep them somewhere else in the house, but
That's so
you
much
know,
extra effort.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, what else do we work with? Do a lot of
Well,
coastal carpet, a lot of coastal carpets. We have some jungle carpets, Bredl's pythons,
Mm.
a lot of bull snakes. I think I have 28 bull snakes.
Holy shit.
No,
and those are all
yeah,
assorted morphs of sorts.
yeah. I have a few locality things, like I have the Kankakees. I have um, some Stillwater hypos. The actual original line locality that was taken from they were saved from that rattlesnake roundup,
Hmm.
and they popped out the first Stillwater hypos. I have some of that original line. So I've got a few locality things, but for the most part, I work with like, oh, and I have the Kingsvilles, the Texas Kingsvilles.
Kingsville Reds.
Yeah. Um, but other than that, I've got Stillwater patternless stuff. I've got the Stillwaters, Miami Xanthics, albinos, hibinos, hypos, white-sideds, and every combination thereof in between. The
What attracts you to bull snakes?
You're
Because
skipping my question.
okay, sorry, go ahead.
Thank
You're gonna get
you.
us off topic.
Somewhat off topic. Okay, I have two questions that are somewhat basic, and you're probably going to get mad at me for asking. And then I have one question from the chat. Stop trying to rush me. First question is, and it's super basic: do boas coloring get better with age, or lose it, or is that specific to specific types of boas?
it depends. Some species of boas get better. Um, some, like for instance, the Argentine boas and the
That's
long-tailed
what
boas.
exactly what I was thinking about.
The Argentine boas and the long-tail boas go through an incredible ontogenetic change from babies to adults. You wouldn't believe a baby longtail is a longtail. It looks just kind of like a drab brown um, red tail. I mean, uh, at first glance, you're just like, and people see the price tag and they're like, I'm not paying that for a red tail. And I'm like, no, 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 these aren't red tails. Like, and then I pull out, mom or dad, and they're like, oh my God, like that's the same snake. And, they're born this kind of drab brown and gray, and they're just not impressive at all as babies. And I mean, to a lawn jacata person, they're awesome looking, um, but yeah, they're night and day from babies to adults. Argentines are the same way. They're this like gunmetal gray, um, and people have to use your imagination that when they get to be adults, they're these s- smoky black, snakes with all this beautiful white peppering and stuff.
And the longicatas also gain melanin too as they get older, right?
Yeah, they get all this black. They get a lot of black. They'll get their grays turn silver, um, and then around the rings of their saddles, they get this hue of yellow that is non-existent as babies. And I have it on my website. If you go to my website, on my longtail boa page at the very bottom, there's a picture of a baby that I raised. There's a picture of her as a baby, and there's a picture of her as an adult. And I mean, It really is. It's night and day. But not all boas are like that. I mean, most of the common, red tails, most of the BCI and stuff, they're identical replicas from babies to adults. Crawl Ks are identical to their parents. Tarahumaras are pretty much what you see is what you get. Um, those Costa Rican boas I have do change quite a bit. They just get redder and redder as they get older. Um, but yeah, it totally varies. I mean, and that's just within the boa constrictor clade. I mean, with other types of boas, is the same thing. I mean, you get, like rainbow boas, for instance, are drastic, or pretty drastic change from babies to adults. I mean, they're kind of orange as babies, and then they color up. They get more and more red. Um, we work with a lot of rosy boas. They're kind of night and day too. I mean, some localities or morphs look like just baby replicas of their adults, but some change quite a bit. I mean, we have like the Harquahala Mountains from Arizona locality rosy boas, and as babies, they're kind of like muted orange and beige, and then like as adults, they're these like crazy beautiful orange stripes with this silver and opaque background color and stuff. So yeah, it totally varies. I mean, but as a general whole, I mean, yeah, most boas get better looking, even with a lot of pythons. I mean, carpet pythons are a great example of that
Everything
too.
but ball pythons.
Yeah,
basically.
ball pythons are born perfect, and then they get duller and uglier usually with age for the most part.
Good thing people only keep them for 1 to 3 years, and then
But
they
he
get rid of them.
acknowledged the fact that some things just kind of stay the same. Like not everything gets better. So I think that's even though ball pythons are the ones that get uglier, it's important to note that some stay the same.
They don't all get uglier. I mean, but
just the majority.
I'm not a big ball python guy, but I mean, there's 2 ball pythons in my house, and they belong to my wife. But I'm sure there'll be more. But yeah, we don't have a lot of pet rocks over here.
Yeah.
Okay, I have 2 more questions.
I'll go for it.
Okay. I mean, obviously you keep so many bull snakes, so the answer to this probably will be yes. But can you tell the difference between a bull snake and a pine snake just randomly looking at 2 next to each other?
Yeah, but that can get very kind of convoluted because there's different subspecies of each one of them. So
he tries to tell me how he tells them apart, and I still can't see it. Like I see 2 pictures.
I can't tell southerns mostly from like Louisiana's and stuff.
There's some types of bull snakes and pine snakes that really kind of walk the line in between, and it's hard to distinctly tell them the difference. Sometimes even as babies, especially, they can be a little more challenging to work with. I mean, or tell apart. But yeah, it's mostly based on color. I mean, a lot of pine snakes. What you find in the hobby most is in, and I'm not that well versed in pine snakes, but I mean, you find like a lot of like northern white pine snakes, and so they're pretty obvious. It's kind of like white and black, or black and white.
Once you get into like the lime bred, like those are the big New Jersey black and white northerns and stuff like that. Yeah, and they're like 7 feet. And,
thank you.
Monsters.
Yeah.
We only work with bull snakes. That's kind of how I justify some of my stuff. Is like I'll do like I don't work with pines or gophers. I just have bulls, and I do a kind of a lot of that. Like I'll have one but not like the other. I mean, like blood pythons. I have Sumatran, python
I love
Bronner's,
those.
but I won't work or don't work with any of the Curtis or Breitenstein. Um, mainly just for space purposes. I mean, I can't keep everything, so
I mean, I have heard that those
choosy.
Sumatrans are a little bit easier to keep, and the Reds and the Borneos maybe a little bit more sensitive. I don't know personally, and plus the Curtis are the most exploited as far as not bred as much here and then imported a lot.
Yeah, they're imported a lot. When I first got into it, bloods were basically only imported. There wasn't basically anybody breeding blood pythons except for like VPI. Um, and so they were always a cool species that I wanted to work with. But um, it's funny. I've never produced them. I've had them for over 10 years, and I've never produced them because I always seem to get some and I slowly raise them up, and then something comes up in life and I get offered money for them and they go. That's happened 3 times now.
Jeez.
That I've raised up a collection of blood pythons. Not a huge collection, but 5, 6 animals, and then they've been sold off because I man, I gotta pay bills.
Last in, first out. So, like,
Yeah,
where you stand now in your current iteration of blood pythons, or
I have
short tails rather?
I have 2 male blood pythons.
well, so you're not breeding this year, or like anytime, like you're not.
Actually,
not as effective as jungles. So
actually, I am breeding blood pythons this year. Hopefully, my matrix head albino is actually at Brian Cusco's house. So he will be pairing her or my male with his normal female this year. And hopefully we'll get a bunch of little matrix pos het T positive albinos. So I might get some blood python babies.
I don't know anything about mutations in bloods. Is that the one that's super for magpie or 007?
I never remember.
The matrix is the single gene of ivory.
Okay, so it's off.
So it's close. I mean, it's a white snake combo. I mean, 2 matrices make the ivory, which is like a small dorsal pattern with basically kind of an ivory off-white background color across the body.
Mm-hmm. Okay, my last question. Oh, sorry. No, you go.
Oh, no, I was just saying that I won't make any ivories, unfortunately, this year. It'll just be a bunch of matrices and normals, but if I produce them, that is. But.
Okay, last question. Brandon asks, how do you cool your Brettles?
Well, I've done it a couple different ways so far, and I have yet to be successful breeding them. So, I would not heed my advice.
How old are they?
They're 2011s.
It's about time.
Yeah. I've tried them 3 years in a row now. And I have a pair of stripes, and I also have a Harris line male that's on loan to me. And I tried the first year just keep them in snake room in my normal racks with my other carpets, and I failed. And then the next year I put them in my garage with my bull snakes with a little heat pad, and that also failed. And so this year I bred them like I breed my Argentines. I took them real cold, but with a heat lamp that would come on for about 5 or 6 hours of the day, and bring them up to about 82, and then at night it would drop down into I was getting them at like 62, 63 degrees, which is how I breed my Argentine boas. They're in the snake room still. They're near the window. I crack the window. They're down in the bottoms of the racks or the bottom cages. And we'll see. I haven't been successful yet though, but I think the last 2 years that had a lot to do with my male. I just had kind of a finicky eater male that was real small, and I think he's just kind of a dud. And so hopefully this Harris line male will get the job done. But they're weird. They don't breed during winter like most carpet pythons. They breed during the spring. So we're actually just now getting into kind of pairing them up. So we'll see. I got my fingers crossed for sure. It'd be really awesome to get some Brettles for sure.
Yeah,
they're definitely one of my favorites.
So as far as carpet pythons, what else do you have going this year?
I've had a terrible year with carpet pythons. I pretty much anytime I've paired up a pair of carpets, I've gotten a clutch of eggs. And this year seems to be the year to not do that. I had a real nice exanthic male get sick on me, and now he quit. I pulled him off the breeding cycle, and so hopefully I'll have some Michael Pinnell striped caramels and normals. Hopefully that Michael Pinnell. I have a Michael Pinnell male, caramel male, that hopefully we'll get some cool stripes going on. We'll have some normal caramels, and then some normal coastals. Pretty much only coastals this year, unless I get the Brettles to get going. And then I've got the jungles paired up as well. But I haven't seen really any activity from them, so I don't know if that's going to go anywhere. But I mean, it's been a weird year. I thought it was going to be probably our biggest season yet by a long shot, and it still might be our biggest season, but I don't know if it's going to be as big as I was thinking it was going to be.
I mean, that's how snake breeding goes. So as far as temperature goes, where do you get to in California? Where you are?
Also, what part of California are you in?
I'm on the Central Coast, so I'm only about 30 minutes from the ocean, and I'm about halfway in between LA and San Francisco. In fact, I'm about 10 minutes away from Brian Cusco.
You lucky duck.
Which is pretty obvious since when you guys interviewed him, he was here at my house.
Wait, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How did I miss that?
He was standing over in the corner here, and me and my buddy.
For a while.
Yeah, he was outside for a little bit in my backyard, playing with my dogs, and then he came in here, and he was messing around. Well, we were messing around with a bunch of snakes while he was over there, which was pretty funny.
And that was at the same time as like the fires. Were you affected that far north?
No, we weren't affected. The only effect that we had was that my buddy Riley Jimison of Riley's Reptiles, he had brought his entire collection up here to get away from the fires, which he was trying to sleep on my couch, and we had all of the snakes in here in different cages and bags, and kind of makeshift evacuation mode. And so, but I mean, we weren't affected at all. We were pretty fortunate. We've had some fires here. We live in a pretty rural area, and we get some fires, but fortunately, nothing that has ever affected our collection at all.
Yeah, if anyone wants to listen to Riley on Morelia Python Radio, he talks about pretty much everything that went down and how he survived, and as far as this collection goes, and all the work he put into it.
How he survived, he the real truth is he came up to my house and he drank all my beer, and that's how he survived. No, he did a lot of work. He used to work at the Santa Barbara Zoo as a reptile keeper there, and the amount of work that he put in there to get the animals set up and prepared for the fire, and then the amount of work that he went into putting in his own personal collection to safety. I mean, when he got up here, it's like, I mean, everything's in bags and cages, and but he was prepped with heat packs, and we were pulling him out to give him water, and he had it all planned out, and major kudos to him. Honestly, in an emergency, I think I'd grab about as many snakes as I could get my hands on and run out the door, and that's about all the preparation I have. I got kids and 2 dogs that they're going to take higher priority over my snakes. So, right. Not that I don't love my snakes, but
humans should come first.
Yeah, I'm sure if my wife was watching, she wants me to say that my kids are the most important.
I'd throw Melissa on the fire and take all the snakes.
Well, I fortunately, all my racks have wheels, so actually I could probably, if I had enough time, I could probably just roll my entire collection out the front door.
We should get that next time. Racks with wheels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I use all vision racks and cages, so everything has wheels. So I could unplug them from the walls and push them right out the door if I needed to. Minus the big boa tubs. Those boa racks are wider than a door.
Really?
So yeah, you have to build them. We've moved now. From when I first got those, we've moved twice, and you have to completely disassemble them and reassemble them in the room that you're going to put them in. But other than that, yeah, everything fits right out the door. In fact, I totally cheat when I hibernate all my bull snakes. I push their rack into the garage, and I just park them in a corner next to my incubator, and then I forget about them for 12 weeks, and then I roll them right back in here and plug them into the wall. So
that's perfect.
It's actually it works out pretty good. Well, for years I had all these separate tubs and had lids and holes punched in them and had to set them all up, and then I had to clear out cabinet space in my garage to stack them all up and then hope they couldn't escape from me, so now I just push the entire rack right out there.
Are you starting to ramp up for your colubrids now?
Yeah, I just brought them in. This is beginning of week 3 from bringing them out of hibernation. I've offered 1 meal so far for all of them. The next couple days, I'll offer the meal number 2. Pretty much everybody took meals already. I had 1 or 2 kind of fight it because it's been kind of cold here at night. We're still getting down into the 20s at night, not in the snake room, but outside. So the temp drop is probably mid 70s at night. give or take.
That's honestly a
75.
lot colder than I thought it would be.
The
over there.
70s you thought was
No.
colder?
He said in the
It gets
20s.
it gets pretty cold here. I mean, when I get up to go to work in the morning, it's 25 right now this time of year. So it's definitely cold. But um, but yeah, we had a couple that didn't want to take it or didn't or took it and dropped it and played their little games. But um, you know,
How often do
and
you feed them when you first get them out?
I give them like a week to warm up, and then week number 2, I'll offer them a meal. Then week 3, week 4, and I pretty much feed them. I'll feed them every week until I get that first shed, and then I'll start pairing them up. Um, and I'll break them up once a week to give them food, and then I'll give them like a 3-day grace period after they eat, and then throw them back together. Fortunately, with bull snakes, they pretty much go right to it. They don't screw around like boas and pythons. Um, they'll bite the females, they'll pin her to the wall.
Well, damn.
Yeah, they're very violent. And so you actually have to watch that they don't hurt each other. I mean, because they can get pretty nasty with each other, and the female just basically tries to run away. Um, and so you gotta pay attention. I mean, but I've never had one get hurt. I mean, the females they'll get some scar tissue on the back of their head from the bites.
But
But
that's not getting hurt.
well, but a couple sheds, it goes away. It's all superficial. I mean, they're not drawing blood or anything. I
Okay.
mean, but it'll just kind of mess up their scales a little bit. Like I said, after a couple sheds, you can't tell. I mean, it goes right away and they're fine. But yeah, they're pretty violent. It was nerve wracking the first time around. I was like, oh my god, they're gonna eat each other. Like, please don't eat each other. Well, my first breeding bull snake experience was pretty bad. I raised up one pair, and I got a female, or got a second female. Um, like a year or 2 years later, and so by the time they were old enough to breed, I had sold off the older female. And I was like, oh, I'm fine. I still got the pair. And I just wanted to try them out before I really got a bunch of bull snakes. Because I'd always been fascinated by bull snakes because of their rattlesnake mimicry. At the museum that I had first, kind of got all my feet wet, we had a big, huge 7-foot bull snake that we used for education. And I was just always fascinated with this, how big and massive of a colubrid they were, and their rattlesnake mimicry was just nothing like anything I had seen. And so I quickly became fascinated with them, and eventually got myself a pair. Well, raised them up, sold off a female, thought, oh, I still got a pair. Finished raising those up. Went to breed them finally when the female was large enough. Hibernated them for 12 weeks, pulled them out, fed them up, did my normal routine, and put them together, and they start fighting. And then I probed the female, and it's a male. And so I had to find myself more females and raise those up. But now we crank them out. I mean, last year we had 3 clutches of various morphs, double gene and triple gene combos and stuff. So they're such awesome snakes. I mean, the everyone's kind of scared of them because they're real hissy and
It's
babies, but
you talking about the rattlesnake mimicking,
it's
like
the
that's why I hate them.
It's the
Like,
only
Oh,
snake where
no.
it's like everyone loves them because they're a piece of shit to them. They act like a rattlesnake.
Who
They
said
hate when
everyone
you
loves
show
them?
up. Well, whoever does love them, it's just part of the charm.
It's totally
No.
a part of the charm. They're such cool snakes.
That's like saying a kid who cries 24/7 is part of the charm.
well, but
Like,
they're not. They
like
don't stay like that. I mean, all my adults, my kids run around and hold. I mean,
That's a unique experience to you.
Yeah.
they're
I don't know about
I've
that.
I've never been hissed at by an adult.
I walk by the
None of my
cage.
adults anyway. I
It's
mean,
freaking out.
they're as babies, they're each tub you open it, and then you move on to the next tub.
Right.
I mean,
And then the smell comes.
oh yeah. I've been pretty fortunate. I don't get a lot of musking. I mean, they seem to quit that pretty quick.
Okay, well, clearly
I hold it, and then you feel like your hands on their stomach, and then you hear like a, and then you just know it's about to musk all over you.
I guess he has the best. His don't rattle, they don't hiss, they don't musk. Like,
oh, they'll rattle as babies. I mean, and if you wake them up from hibernation, they'll get pissed. I can get my adults going during the middle of hibernation if I, touch them. When I'm in there giving them fresh water and stuff, I can get them going. But I mean, the general day-to-day stuff, no. I mean, you just have to watch out when you're feeding them because they'll come flying out of their tubs and.
Yeah, I'm a drop and run with that.
Yeah, this is what I use. These really long tongues. It tends to keep most of the fingers away.
Well, my olives like a hook open the tub and throw a rat, and then it will catch it midair and fucking flail out of the tub. So,
man, my olives aren't that gnarly. My olives are pretty mellow.
it sounds like everything you have is pretty mellow.
Problem,
no, that's not true. I have plenty of snakes that'll bite you. I mean, there's there's certain snakes in here that my kids can walk in and pull out and hold, and there's other ones that you can't. I mean, all my adult carpet pythons you can hold and handle real easily. Young carpet pythons, even like 2-year-old carpets, are
Not
all
happening.
they're all pretty nasty. Got a lot of boas that'll make a big stink. They'll hiss and stuff. Argentines are pretty notorious for that as babies.
really.
And they'll do it as adults too. So they're fun. You get an 8-foot, 25-pound boa hissing at you. It's a serious sound. I mean, I used to have one. It's funny because each Argentine is kind of their own separate personality, and so I had one specifically that you would open the cage and it would immediately just open its mouth and hiss at you, and then as soon as you reached in and grabbed it, he was dead silent, like it was like turning off a light switch, and but anyone that was around, he would scare the piss out of because you open it up, you got this huge boa, I mean, like, and I would just reach in, and everyone's like, "What the hell is wrong with you? Like, you're a psycho." But I have other ones. Kind of the norm right now with most of my Argentines is they love to hiss when they have a rat. I'll give them a rat, they'll grab it, and they'll wrap it, and then they're hissing at me that like I'm gonna take it from them.
Like, don't take what I have wrapped up. Like, it's
You
mine.
can't have this. It's mine. And I'm like, I gave you the rat. Like, but
I don't want it back. Like,
yeah, but
Deep.
that's kind of the norm for most of my Argentines right now. They're
My carpets will like wrap up a rat, and then they see me, and then they try to bite me after, like I'm another meal
oh
or something.
yeah, I've got some that'll drop their food and they'll key back up on me, and you're like, no, I already gave you the rat. Like, eat the rat. Yeah, I've got. It's funny when you work with a big collection like I do. I've got a bunch of different things like that. I have some snakes that, they want their food left there. Like a lot of my baby bull snakes, you just have to put the food item in the cage and close the cage and walk away, and they'll eat it. I mean, frozen thawed, no big deal. They'll go and eat it. They won't take it from the tongs. They'll hiss at it and they'll strike at it, and they won't eat it. But if you just leave it in there and walk away, they'll eat it. But then I have, some stuff that has to take it from tongs a certain way or they won't eat it. Or, I mean, they each kind of have their own little quirks. I mean, or like you said, there's, I have a couple snakes that you got to just kind of toss it in there and shut the cage real fast because my Maclots pythons will do that. They'll catch that damn thing mid-flight, like, boom, wrap it up, and I mean, and you just got to make sure that you're not in their mouth when it's all said and done.
Now, do you
but
find Max to be a bit different than something like an Olive or a Savu or the other Liasis?
I've never worked with Savus personally, but as far as my work with Max and olive pythons, they both are pretty similar. I mean, the olive pythons seem a little more curious and intelligent than my Max. The Max kind of have the personality of a carpet python. They're very, strong feeding response, very defensive as babies, and then they kind of just naturally get over it if work with them. And by the time it's really going to hurt when a Macklot is going to bite you, I mean, they just kind of stop, which is kind of my experience with carpet pythons is for the most part. It's like, but with the olives, you can see the intelligence and the curiosity when they're cruising around. I don't know. There's just something about them that they're definitely a little smarter. But I haven't had olives all that long. Mine are 2015.
I think I'm about the
and
same time frame with my Olive.
yeah, I got mine from my good buddy Nick Mutton of Inland Reptile. And
you say that so casually.
Like
Like,
you don't know
oh,
who
my friend next
doesn't
door,
know who he is
Nick
already.
Mutton. Like,
well, me and Nick, I started hanging out. Well, started talking to him over the phone back in 2011. I bought my first carpet pythons from him. I didn't buy my first carpet pythons from him, but I bought my first carpet pythons from him in 2011. I've had carpets. Carpets were like my third snake. In fact, I actually bred them in 2007 was my first year breeding. I bred carpet python and a red-tailed boa constrictor. That was my first pairings
At that time,
ever.
who was even breeding carpets?
Nick Mutton.
No, Nick Mutton.
Yeah. There was a couple other guys out there. BPI was breeding carpets back then, actually. Who else was breeding carpets? Will Bird was breeding carpets.
Mandy Venter was probably still breeding carpets.
Yeah. There was definitely carpet python people out there. but I I kind of found Nick through Reptile Radio, and I was also a part of the Morelia Python Radio um, uh, group,
Mhm.
um, and or not Morelia Python Radio,
The forums.
Morelia Python forums, um, and uh, and so yeah, I mean, I kind of followed Nick, and I was always a big fan of Vin Russo with his locality boas and all of his, very locality specific, boas and stuff. And so after having carpets for a couple years and kind of getting more immersed in the hobby, I realized that Nick was definitely going the direction that I really kind of want to follow and be very specific with
Being
my
awesome.
localities. And yeah, he's an awesome guy.
I don't even know this
So,
person.
are you a purist then at heart?
Oh yeah. I
That's him.
produced my first clutch was a mutt pairing of like a jungle and Aryan Jaya. And then I'll never forget. I was on the phone with Nick, and I had
Oh
some
no.
diamond coastal crosses, and we were talking about carpet pythons, and he's all, "You need to go fucking sell those things right now." And I was all right,
Nick, okay.
sold. And but no, he's a good guy. We've talked on the phone many times for hours and hours on end, and we're chasing our own kids around while we're talking on the phone, talking snakes for hours, and finally one of us is like, all right, we my kids won't let me go, like I gotta go, like but and I was really fortunate to meet him in person. He came down. The last two Southwest Carpet Fests were held um, here at my house. And so I was really fortunate that the last time um, he came down, he actually flew down to Los Angeles and then drove up with another buddy of ours. And he hung out for 2 days and got to, it was pretty surreal, honestly, because, he's one of the people I really look up to in the hobby, and to have him at my house holding my snakes, um, it
That's
was pretty
royalty
cool.
right there.
It was really cool. It was a cool experience to be around him. He's a really down to earth guy. Like you know, I totally felt like a fanboy. I was like, "Will you sign?" I was like, I wanted him to sign my copy of the complete Carpet Python, and
Will you
um,
sign my coastal, please?
I didn't. I actually didn't have him do it. I chickened out, and but yeah, he's a really good dude. He's got some great carpet pythons, and in fact, um, I was fortunate enough that I have a couple that he actually loaned me after Carpet Fest. He sent me a few loaner animals to work on some specific projects with him. So
I
it
think I
was
think that's a sign that he liked the way you kept your animals. So that's
yeah, I
pretty
hope so. I mean, it was a real honor that he was like he entrusted me with his animals. But of course now I'm failing him because I'm like not gonna have it anywhere near the amount of carpet pythons I was planning to. So uh, I actually texted him the other day and I was like, I'm sorry, dude, but I don't know if that project's gonna work. And but yeah, so he's a good dude. Like I said, he has a real passion for carpet pythons and stuff, and so yeah, he's an all around. He's a great guy. But yeah, I'm definitely a purist. I don't have any crosses. I don't do any crosses. Um, in fact, I have one carpet python that's not, lineaged, and he's a pet, that we take to all the classrooms and stuff like that. And
Is that one of those like something that just kind of fell into your lap at the right time, or a pet, or when you first got into him?
he was, I'd kind of gotten out of carpet pythons. I had like a bunch of crosses and I had some bredls and stuff. And then, we had just had my son and we were like, I just needed to kind of thin the herd a little bit. And so I sold all that stuff off and a couple other things. And then, this, nice, what I assume is a coastal carpet, was at the pet shop, that I frequented all the time. And I missed having carpet pythons, and I was like, well, and I bought them for a Christmas present for myself. And
That
yeah,
sounds like something he would do.
and he kind of sparked me back into the carpet pythons, and it was shortly thereafter I called up Nick and I was like, hey, so I'm gonna send you like $2,000. Send me a bunch of cool stuff. And
Pretty freaking awesome Christmas present.
yeah, we that year I got Bredls, I got Jungles, I got Coastals, I got some Caramel Coastals. Yeah, it was a really, I kind of jumped, headlong into it. And but I've been very successful with carpet pythons. I mean, overall,
I mean, it
as
seems
far
like
as
a reasonable transition, but how did you get into liasis? Was that Nick's fault as well?
no, no, the liasis was all Brandon Wheeler's fault. Um, um, growing up, or when I was early in the hobby, I was good friends with Brandon Wheeler, still am. But he had some Maclots pythons, and I was always hanging out with him, holding them, checking them out. And he had clutch after clutch after clutch, years after years, and finally, I bought a pair, and I've been hooked ever since. And um, olive pythons were kind of always that awesome, species of snake that I kind of always wanted to own. It was kind of my dream snake, and then especially after I got the Maclots pythons, I was like, oh man, I got to get olives now. And I finally, I finally bit the bullet and got my olive pythons. Yeah,
What are your thoughts
yeah.
on? I may have missed what olives you had because I missed things. But what are your thoughts on albino olives?
I have a pair of
No,
100% head
oops,
albinos.
missed them.
You bastard.
Ooh, ooh.
Um, you know, they make a pretty good albino, all things
Yeah.
considered. They're a patternless snake. So their albinos are pretty neat. Just this patternless white, animal.
But it's like
You know,
creamy.
It's like
It's
it's a pale
creamy. I
yellow.
like
It's
I
nice.
like that it's not just like total white like
yeah,
nothingness, but it has it
right.
has a little bit to it. And I like that.
Yeah, I like them a lot. I mean, I definitely want. I'm pretty excited that I'm, you know, kind of one of the few, I guess, that have, or have the potential of making albino olives. That's kind of a neat aspect that I'm not familiar with in the hobby. Most of the stuff I produce is, a couple $100 here and there. So it's kind of neat to know that I'm, one of the, kind of handful basically that have, the potential to make albino olives here in the next, year or two. Um, but I hope that it's not. I hope that that's not people's only draw. I mean, olive pythons are such an interesting species of snake, that I don't want people to get caught up in the mutation of the olives. Um, Olives are just interesting species to keep, whether they're albino or not. And in fact, I probably plan to, have both options. I'd like to have some 100% normal olives and produce just nice classic olive pythons for people, and have, the albinos and het albinos to do, to produce, like I said, albinos and het albinos for people that are interested in the mutation themselves. But they're, yeah, I don't know. Olives are just such interesting snakes that, I mean, it's weird. I can't put my finger on it, but it's like, I think it's the same kind of intrigue and interest that people have with reticulated pythons and their, intelligence.
There's
That
something happening there. Their eyes move,
I
and
don't think ours is the smartest one, babe. Like,
uh,
I don't know.
it just decides when
But
it
it
wants
really
to bite
also
you
likes
sometimes.
feng
So-
shui. Like, that's what we should name it, because it literally refuses to keep
Oh, it
its.
fucks up.
It fucks up the tub
constantly.
every single time, and it drives me nuts.
that's interesting.
Like-
My experience with olive pythons, both of them, as soon as they got here, were very handleable, and I mean, I've never been bit, never been attempted to bite. Um, I hook them out and they hang out with me. My daughter holds them. She's 11 years old. I mean, uh, I granted I haven't had baby olives yet. So,
Terrible.
I'm
Terrible.
sure baby,
The worst.
I'm sure baby olive pythons are not going to be that mellow. But I mean, my baby, or when I was raising Macklot's pythons, they were devils for years. I mean, but they mellowed out, and man, as long as I'm not feeding them, they're
Yeah.
they're okay.
I had to do the whole blackout the front of the tub with my olive when it was a baby, because it would just bang its face,
bang its
strike the
head.
whole time.
I've had a couple of over the years of different species that did that. They're just like, you wouldn't. They just couldn't handle it. They were just always super. I had baby bull snakes even like that. That were just like wouldn't calm down. I mean, they eventually did as they got a little older, but yeah, I still have one that's real happy to see me every time. That
It's a
he's
positive spin
well, his name's Happy, and he's a stillwater patternless bull snake that you open the tub and he's just gonna start hissing and striking. And I think I used him in a video as far as to show like the kind of the immediate defense mechanisms of bull snakes there. Yeah, he's a character for sure, but he's gonna make some incredible babies. So
It's
I'll let him be a jerk.
Yeah, it's hard to explain to people. Like, I have people messing me about olives, about waters, about carpets. It's like, hey man, please just wait like a year, like stay in there. They may be terrible now, but like you're not gonna tame them down. I don't think. Just give them that year to kind of chill out.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't necessarily like 100% trust my Macklot's pythons, but I mean, I can reach in there and handle them and stuff, and they don't, react. I mean, but I've had them now. They're 2012s, so I mean, they've had a lot of experience dealing with, how I do things and stuff. So I mean, they're pretty callous to what I'm doing and stuff. I mean,
that cover photo on your page, is that them locked up?
yeah.
Did that happen this year?
Yeah, that was this year. The she's actually shedding right now, so I'm hoping this is hoping it's a prelay. She's not very swollen, but I've had snakes fool me before that
I
didn't look
show
pregnant.
it to people. Oh wait, stop.
There you go. I don't know
Yeah,
if
that's
Travis can
not.
see it, but we're just showing the pair of
No, I can see
Maclots.
it.
Cool.
But yeah,
Yeah.
they're super awesome.
So which is
Yeah,
which?
the lighter colored is the male, and the darker color is the female.
Oh,
So you
The
can see that
Why'd
that
it change
female
that?
looks pretty large in comparison to the male.
yeah, she's definitely a lot bigger. I don't keep them that big. I mean, they're basically the size of carpet pythons. Um, I've heard, stories of, 7, 8 foot Maclots pythons and stuff, and I mean, my male lives in CB70 tub. I mean,
Awesome.
like he he eats like small rats. I mean, a lot of this stuff does not need to be the size that you see on uh, some of these things. I mean, I think herpetoculture as a whole has uh, kind of gotten a lot of animals for kind of a long time, kind of fat and lazy. Um,
Absolutely.
and you tend to see it with uh, a lot of species, really, even carpet pythons. I mean, people like I work with coastal carpets a lot, and everyone's like, "Oh, those are the biggest carpets, and they're so big, they're too
If
big,"
you
and
want them to be.
Yeah,
I'm
yours
like,
is.
"Yeah, if you feed the hell out of them, yeah, anything. I mean, they'll get big. I mean, it's like my adult females are 7 feet and eat like a large rat every 2 weeks. It's like, I mean, my 11-year-old daughter throws them over her shoulders and carries them around. It's not like they don't need to be these 10 foot, monster animals that, um, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't, you see it even worse with boa constrictors,
Dude, I see
too.
like a 8-foot BCI that's like as thick as a fucking jug. It's
Yeah.
disgusting. I hate it.
Oh, yeah. Or and even like I work with Argentines, and I've worked with Argentines for a long time, and it's like, everyone's like, oh, they get, way bigger than, other red tails and stuff. And, you'll hear some of these stories of like 14-foot Argentine boas, and they're, you know, 100 pounds or something. And then you're like, or even, 60 pounds. And it's like, if you do the math, I mean, that animal is grossly obese. Like, I mean, like my my biggest female is a 2005. So she's what, 13 this year? She's 25 pounds and 8 feet long. Like, so now if you take, let's say, even if they're 10 feet, let's say you have a 10-foot Argentine boa. If it's 60 pounds, the breakdown, if 25 pounds and 8 feet is a healthy individual that's not obese, and fed properly, you add 2 more feet, but then you add 30 more pounds, or what, or 35 more pounds. Like,
Well, it's
that's
like the healthy animals like 3 pounds a foot, and then that's like
right.
yeah, that's like
And
6 pounds a foot.
yeah,
I
I
don't know if
mean,
that's a good way to break down boa constrictors, but we just made it up.
no, it is. It's you can't. I mean, and you won't get any success breeding those. I mean, that big of an animal, unfortunately, is you'll be lucky if you get the lifespan out of them too. I mean, most of these things, if we don't screw it up, will live 15 to 20 years, and maybe even more. So it's like, I mean, as long as you don't feed the crap out of them, I mean, you know, I
I mean,
mean,
I think the whole thing is that people think that every snake you give them a rat once a week, and everything's once a week. It's the same formula for everything.
yeah, yeah, and I don't even feed every 2 weeks. I mean, depending on what it is. I mean, if I want it to grow, I mean, babies, it's like once a week, and then but it's totally dependent on the species, you know. I mean, you can't. It's not a one size fits all type of thing. I mean, different species have different metabolisms. I mean, you know, you can feed a bull snake once a week and they're fine, you know, or a corn snake once a week or every 2 weeks. I mean, you know, they have a higher metabolism and they can process that correctly.
Right.
You feed a boa every week for its entire life, and you keep growing with size. I mean, you're eventually just going to have a really fat boa. I mean, you know, they can only be so wide, and but
Which I mean is not going to help you. I'm guessing wouldn't help you with breeding, whether it's male or female.
no, no, you get something too big, even a female, you know, is that's not healthy. I mean, change it out to a human, for instance.
I literally we had this conversation 20 minutes before the podcast, and I was about to, he made this exact same analogy, and I was about to bring it up.
But go
Obese people don't have
I'm
successful.
sorry, yeah, probably funnier.
Yeah, I mean, obese people don't have successful, reproduction very often. I mean, and that's because their bodies, can't handle, that. I mean, that's just find me a fat boa in the wild. Find me a fat anything in the wild. I mean,
But does it matter about the male?
yeah, because if a male's fat, he's going to be lazy and he's not going to breed.
That doesn't work in
It's
humans.
like
That analogy doesn't. No matter the size of human males, they will still breed.
Well, I mean, they can breed. I mean, but in my experience, you know, it's easier it's easier to keep them in smaller cages and leaner.
Mhm.
And I mean, you save yourself food bill, you save yourself cage space. I mean, um, and I mean, and I've had fat snakes that didn't really want to go for it, but then bring in a small young male and gung ho. So I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I meant to ask you before about the liasis. Do you prescribe to two males as far as people say you need two male olives to breed? And I don't know if the same applies to Maclots.
well, I've never bred olives. I've never bred liasis at all, except
But
for
you
the
only have a
max.
pair, though. You don't have an extra
I
male.
do. I only have the pair, but I will rectify that here hopefully pretty soon. Just to be safe, I'd like a second male. And then as far as Maclots, if I'm not successful this year, I will get another pair just to have another pair, just because I want another pair. Um, but yeah, I mean that's kind of how my process works. Is it's like if it's a species, I seem like I raise up one pair and then I see if I'm successful breeding them or if I just enjoy keeping them, and then I'll expand from that. So, I mean, um, but I mean, so yeah, I mean, I'll like for instance, if I have a litter of Max this year or a clutch of Max this year, I'll keep a pair and then I'll have two pairs. But as far as liasis or as far as olives, I will be getting a pair of normals.
Mhm.
That's just because I want to be able to provide normals as well.
And you can also use the male.
And then I can. It serves a double purpose that I can use the male if need be. Um, I've talked to people that breed olive pythons. Um, that like Nick will swear that he has to have another male. He went 10 years without being successful with olive pythons until he got a second male.
I definitely would have given
Um,
up by then.
yeah, like um, that's dedication right there. I mean, um, but then I've also talked to people that breed olive pythons that they just have a pair and or a couple pairs and they don't ever put the males together and they get successful clutches every year. So I mean, I think some of it has to do with it's possible that all that male or those males are need is the smell of another male and they don't need the actual interaction. But it's definitely a huge positive motivator for a lot of species of snake to have another male or even the scent of another male. I very regularly take sheds of skins of boas and other carpets and stuff like that and put them in, you know, the cage with a different male, just to kind of get them amped up and the smell of another male. I've done some combating with carpets and stuff, and if nothing else, it's kind of interesting to watch. I mean, but it is a good motivator for males that aren't breeding, and then you throw two males together and they get a little combat going, and then you separate them and throw them both in cages with females, and they're both like, "Oh, I won! Cool, all right." Like, and so yeah, I mean, I think if nothing else, a mistake I've made a lot is with having so many different snakes and different species and stuff that I've only been reliant on one male a lot of the time, and I've faltered a lot from it. I mean, so it's definitely if you're looking to get into a project or a new species or something, I definitely recommend you buy like a 2.2. If you really anything you're going to try, because you could potentially have one male that's just a dud and just for whatever reason doesn't want to breed, and it's like, well, you've spent 3 maybe 4 years raising these this trio up or this pair up, and the male just doesn't want to breed, or the female just doesn't want anything to do with this male. I've experienced that too. So, I mean, and I think it's really important to have a second male of almost anything that you want to do. I mean, if you can afford to get, the second male, or like a 2.2, I definitely recommend it. I mean, with any species. I mean, if you really want to be successful with that pair, worst case scenario, you have at least one male that's gonna, hopefully go the distance for you. I mean, and then you sell that other male off as, a pet or something, and who knows? I mean, maybe with the different females, that male does well. And I mean, I experienced that this year. I had a pair of Argentines together. For whatever reason, I had this pair is proven for me twice in a row. Well, I don't breed boas females back to back, but I mean, with gaps in between, I had this pair prove for me twice together. This year, for whatever reason, just wasn't, the male wasn't doing anything, and I had a different pair of Argentines, same thing, nothing happening, and I switched them, and they immediately both started locking up with the other female. Don't know why, but if I hadn't had the second male, I wouldn't have any baby Argentines this year. And now, I might be fortunate enough to have 2 different litters. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I definitely I definitely recommend it.
Sometimes you just need some fresh meat in there,
Yeah, exactly.
So how did you end up getting the max? Did you do anything special as far as cycling, or did you treat them kind of like your carpets?
I just treated them totally like carpets. They're in the same racks as carpets. They had the same night drop as carpets. Yeah, I didn't, and I've had, and this was the year that I got some locks, and it looks like it's gonna go the distance. So I mean, um, I'm hoping. I tried them last year, and I think they were just a little too young. They were 2012, so theoretically they should have been able to breed, but um,
Did you have
I'm
them
kind
since
of
2012?
yeah. I raised them from babies.
Who'd you get them from?
Well, I bought them. They were produced by Brandon Wheeler of Morelia House, and then he actually wholesaled them all to Nick, and then I bought them from Nick. uh, but I actually bought them from Nick, knowing that they were Brandon's, and specifically I wanted Brandon's because I'd grown up a sense with the parents of those animals,
Mhm.
and so it was really important to me to have uh, animals from that that pairing. And unfortunately, those parents died. Um, Brandon sold them a few years ago, and they actually passed away in the new owner's care. And so now Brandon, when I produce some,
He's
Brandon's
gonna
gonna
have to
buy
buy a
some from
pair back.
me.
Oh, damn.
But yeah, but I'm
It's
kind of
se-
weird and sentimental like that. Like, I mean, if I can have some produced from a good friend of mine, I mean, those are the animals that I want. I mean, um, but yeah, that pair is pretty special to me. I'm pretty stoked that if I am successful with them, they're a neat species. I mean, they're olive pythons with they're basically a patternless snake with a few freckles. I mean, it's like if they were a carpet python, I'm totally gonna steal Nick Mutton's saying, but I heard him once say that if they were a new mutation of carpet python, they'd be $10,000.
Mhm.
But they're a whole species that looks like that, and they're barely you hardly ever even see them.
Yeah.
You can't hardly find somebody that knows what a Macklot's python is, let alone producing them or keeping them. And so, um, yeah, I'm really hoping that pair goes the distance for sure.
That's what sucks is you see common morphs of like a ball python, or like I went to Ryan's house and he had a retic that looked just like a Timor, and we're like, oh my god, that looks just like a Timor, that's amazing. But you're gonna pay like $1,000 for a retic morph when you could get
A
a
Timor,
Timor.
yeah.
So it's like,
Oh
why do
yeah,
we prefer the retic when we could have the real thing? Or that's not a great example because Timors are, I've just heard, terrible
Timors are
captive
pretty.
snakes.
Well, yeah, I've heard Timors are pretty terrible. But no, I mean you're totally right. There's definitely snakes out there that are. I mean, there's definitely a lot of underrated or underappreciated species out there, and that's kind of all the stuff that I like, though. I mean, I like all the locality boas, and my favorite carpet pythons are coastals. Um, um, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of the majority of my collection is like weird stuff like that. I mean, I have Candoya boas, Argentine boas,
Yeah, let's talk about.
Coral
I had
K.
Paul Sinai at one point. Do you have a pair?
I have a trio. I have a 1.2, and I've actually had nothing but locks from one pair this year. So I'm really hoping that I have a litter.
You house them
Um,
together during the winter?
um, I pair them up just like I pair anything else. But boas kind of yeah, they're boas tend to I do more of a 1-to-1 ratio with boas. And so yeah, he's basically just kind of lived in there since I started. As soon as I started doing the cooling temps. I gave them like a week of that, and then I tossed them in with the female, and I got locks pretty much right away, and they've been locked up for weeks and weeks and weeks. I literally stopped writing it on the tub. I was just like, well, it's kind of overkill at this point. It's like, they I have blue painter's tape, on all my tubs with, well, I have a bunch of information, but as far as breeding goes, I have like lock dates and stuff, and or paired this date and locked this date, whatever. And yeah, I literally just stopped writing on the tub. I ran out of space, and I was like, okay, well, like, but hopefully, the male I have is a captive bred, kind of white with dark saddles.
So like
Male.
San Isabel is what they call it. That face.
Yeah, well, yeah, a lot of people call them that. That's actually a real island, though.
It's like a misnomer. Yeah, it's just the
Yeah,
coloration at this
and
point.
they don't all look like that from that island. And so I tend to shy away from saying that, because, for instance, my two females are actually wild caught, San Isabel Island, and one's orange and one's red. So they're definitely not all white. Yeah, the white one's captive bred, and I was really hoping I had originally bought a 1.2 from Dan Malari of DM Exotics, because I fell in love with this species, way back in my early years, with there was a shop in Long Beach, California, that I would go to a lot, and they had these. He had an adult female for like the longest time, and about every time I go into the shop, I held it, and I thought, man, these are such cool snakes. Like, and they get pretty good size. I mean, not too big, but
They
not
get
too
like a
small.
perfect size, really.
Yeah, I mean, and they're just really unique snakes. I mean, they're very viper, mimics. Basically, the whole Candoya genus is all viper mimics of some sort. And the Paulsoni tend to eat really good on rodents. And so, and almost no one looks the same as the next. Even when you get a red animal, for instance, you could have two red animals, and you'll have a red animal with like red saddles, and then you'll have another red animal with like, he'll have the same red saddles, but then the outlines of the saddles are black, and I mean, or a different shade of red or an orange or something. I mean, I've pretty much never seen two Paulsoni that look the same, and they're not morphs. They're just, they're just
Polygenic
they're very a varied, species as far as their, outward appearance. And so, yeah, so I bought the original trio of wild caught, San Isabel Island. They were the first that were imported in probably, like, I think 8 years. Dan brought in a pretty good little group of them.
I got them that year too.
Oh, did you? Nice.
Yeah. I think, what was that, like 2 or 3 years ago?
Something like that, yeah. And I moved, and something happened. I don't know what the heck happened, but my male died. And I was like, crap, like, I got two females, and I was fortunate to hook up with a guy that was selling some captive bred animals, and I found a nice white one that I liked, and kind of the same MO. I mean, they're supposed to need another male, and but captive bred is a lot more expensive than wild caught animals.
Even though half of the captive breds are just females that came in gravid.
Yeah. No, these are actually true, genuine captive bred animals, and or the male is anyway, and and so anyway, I picked him up, and yeah, so far he's been working out for me.
Mhm.
Um, it's it's crazy the size difference in them.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, my male lives in a freaking hatchling tub, like uh, he eats hopper mice, like I mean,
Mhm.
like, and the females eat small rats, like um, yeah, it's very weird to see. But I've got plenty of pictures of them locking up. Um,
Well, I
so I'm
mean,
pretty,
don't worry. Their gestation period is just around 9 to 11 months. So
yeah.
you
Well,
waiting.
boas in general are very long. Most Argentine boa, or like Argentine boas and long-tail boas and stuff, it's about the same. It's
Really?
yeah, it's I think it's I want to say it's 145 days or
Oh,
something from ovulation to birth. Um,
about 5 months or so
yeah, like 5 or 6 months. I mean,
Did you do that in your
it's
head?
in my head, man.
Hmm.
um, but you hardly ever catch a boa ovulating, so it's like it's a total shot in the dark. And what I seem to experience is a lot of my boas don't have pre-lay sheds. Um, so I'm totally guessing, like when I have boa litters, I'm like, a lot of people are lucky they have a shed, and then they're like, okay, well, it's 145 days from this day, and then they can map it out. And for whatever reason, most of the boas that I produce, I don't ever have a shed, and I'm like, okay, well, so let's just say she ovulated this day. We're looking at, I mean, most of my boa litters are produced in July or August. So, like last 2 weeks of July, first 2 weeks of August is pretty average for all the boas I've produced. So, and then I kind of just tell people, get back in touch with me back, and then, but yeah, yeah, they're just weird species. I mean, but yeah, the pulse and I are really neat. I definitely hope to get more.
Mhm.
They're really unique. Uh, Kind of the same thing, like the same interest I have with bull snakes. It's like that kind of that interesting mimicry.
Yeah.
They're not your typical snake that you see on a regular basis. So
Yeah,
they're
mine
neat.
had it had a stub tail, it had a bite out of the back and shit, and it was just
Oh yeah,
it was
they're hard.
rough.
They're hardy ass snakes, though. I mean, you know, I thought they were going to be a little more sensitive with their care and stuff, and I mean, coconut husk and a bowl of water, and
Mhm.
you know, 90-degree heat, hot spot, and they do great. I mean,
You know what's funny? I kept mine at like an 86-degree hotspot, so it shows you that fuck it. I mean, they live whatever, but
yeah.
mine actually ended up getting like an abscess in her mouth and then ended up dying. So
Uh,
they just have
yeah,
really
it
slow metabolisms. I don't know if we knew, I guess.
really slow, really slow. I mean, I've got females that is, you that came in the same, group that you did. Like they're still living in 35 quart tubs. Like their metabolism is just like train wreck slow. Like, I mean, it's like I mean, I don't feed them on any type of schedule whatsoever. I literally, you know, wait, until they digest, and then I say, okay, well, you know, um, and you can tell, like, they're kind of fat sausages for a little while, and it's like, okay, they need some more time, like, I don't want them fat, like, but they just, yeah, they have a weird body, metabolism, and so, but blood pythons are kind of the same way. It's like they have a stupid slow metabolism, and they just kind of take a longer time to grow. I mean, um, but that's fine. I mean, they're already breeding, obviously, so I
Yeah.
mean, they don't have to be adults, or 6 feet or whatever. But and then to breed, I think that's.
I mean, I know mine was. I mean, honestly, what was it? 3 to 4 feet.
Yeah,
It's, a,
that's all.
it's fucking
That's
tiny.
all mine are right now. I mean,
Yeah.
they're like a fat corn snake. I mean,
Right. I've been thinking about getting like Aspera or Viper boas, another Candoya.
You've been thinking
they're cool.
about getting
I'll send you some if I have a litter.
No, we want
I'll get you
baby.
back in.
We want albino olives. Actually, we can't afford albino olives, but we want.
Well, if
them.
you're off,
I can't either. That's why I bought a head albinos.
Well, we have a female, so we need a male. So, but I don't want to deal with.
That's our only situation
66%
where we have a
heads.
female and we need a male.
Water python
Almost
too.
everything else, we have males and need.
I guess we can, we'll get a male water python. We'll breed water pythons, and we can do swapsies.
No,
Water python for olives.
Yeah, I don't have water pythons. What type of waters do you have?
The Australians. I don't have. They're not like specific fog dam or anything like that, but produced by, I forget the guy's name, up in Rochester, New York. But dude, they're fun. I don't know. Mine's chill. Most, I guess, aren't, but mine's all right.
I just like how it looks.
I've heard the fiscus from Indo are really wild and crazy, and the ones from Australia tend to be a little more mellow and easier to deal with. I mean, there's two different subspecies from Australia, but I think we only have one here in the States. There's the ones from Australia and the ones from Indo here in the States. But what I really want are Dunn's pythons.
Yeah. You're like, I want an olive. I just want to look a little bit more jacked up and have a fat face and stuff. And it's just not had by most, I guess.
Yeah.
But there's a guy for that, and he's in Washington, and you know him, and
yeah,
figured.
Yeah, and I could just call him and say, "Hey, I'm sending you money. I'm sending you my paycheck. Send me more."
I mean, it's funny how we just like things that we don't have yet. So it's like we have all the other liasis, and olives are amazing, but all of a sudden, now that there's only like a few Dunn's pythons left, we need Dunn's.
Sorry, well, actually, I'm Googling them right now because
I wanted
Poplin and an olive.
But I feel like you could get that pattern in something else.
Like a Maclots, yeah.
Yeah, a Dunn's python is just kind of a Maclots python. In fact, for a long period of time, they were mistakenly the same. They were mistakenly the same thing, and then they thought they were subspecies, and then they realized that they're a total separate, species of python. But those weren't in the States for a long time. I got fascinated with them kind of right when I also got fascinated with all the other Liasis stuff. And I was really upset that there was no Dunn's in the country. And just in the last, 2 years, Nick and
KJ?
Ryan Young brought in a few Dunn's pythons. They got their hands on some from Europe.
Crazy how things appear once people want.
Yeah. Yeah, they're Nick's tenacious in the species that he wants, and so he'll get them, and he got them. I've actually, as far as things in other countries that I desperately want is I really want there's two different subspecies of boa constrictor that are not here in the States that I just absolutely would love. One are the clouded boas, and they're kind of like the baby Argentine boas, but they keep that kind of weird smoky gray color all through their life. They're really neat.
A subspecies of boa constrictor?
Yeah, they're boa constrictor nebulosa. or their common name is the clouded boas. And they're a really, really neat looking species. We don't have them in the States anymore. The few that were here have gotten old and died off, and then another one is the St. Lucius boa, and I'm totally gonna mind blank on their species name. Yep, not there.
Well, we looked at the clouded boa. It looks like an ugly BCI
Wait.
from an idiot's perspective. So
They're
sorry.
so cool. They're so cool. They
Is
don't
it-
get very big.
Uh-huh.
They're very similar to like a longtail boa or a Costa Rican boa. They're gonna be like, like 4 or 5 feet, like a ball python basically sized boa constrictor. Um, and I don't know, there's just something different about it. Maybe it's just because there's none in the US that
Yeah.
I'm more fascinated by it than and then the other one is the St. Lucius boa that, like I said, I can't, for whatever
Oh
reason,
wait,
can't
I
get
just looked it up, but I'm gonna fuck up the name. Orpheus.
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 Oh,
Orpheus.
I told you I was gonna fuck it
Boa,
up.
boa
Yeah.
constrictor Orpheus. Yeah.
I think Longicauda is my favorite name because they named it that because it has a longer dick. So they
Yeah.
call them longtail pythons, but Longicauda means long dick in
Yep.
our fake Latin language.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
So,
it's it means long penis. Well, those came in. Those are kind of funny because I actually have I have some that originated from animals that came into the country before they were a species. Um, and I have their lineage broken down. That I'm at. I think my animals are the 5th generation of line breeding this group. But they're yeah, they came into the country as Peruvian boas with other like Peruvian red-tailed boas and stuff. Um, and Vin Russo's brother, Robert, and Dr. Robert Price, um, they, did all the scientific scale counting and measuring and stuff like that, and yeah, named them boa constrictor longicauda because of their enormous uh, hemipenes. And they're a neat species. I've kept them now I got my first ones in 2009, and I've been keeping them ever since. Produced some back in 2016, and hopefully going to produce some more this year. They're neat. They don't get very big. You can keep them in CB70 tubs. Like they're fun. I mean, they're a boa without the giant boa. I
yeah.
mean,
See, I didn't know that they were any smaller than like a regular boa or BCI or something like that.
yeah, they're not a dwarf, but they're semi-dwarf. I mean, when you compare them to like a BCI or a BCC, they definitely don't get that big. I mean, my adult females eat medium rats, and I mean, they're like maybe 5 feet long. My 2009 female's probably 5 feet long.
Do you
Maybe.
see any discrepancy in attitude on the Longicauda?
Yeah, they're not very nice snakes. They're, um, I don't actively hold them a lot.
Why does it
Actually,
seem that only BCIs are nice?
well, no, I have plenty of Argentines that are really nice.
Hmm.
I don't know, longtails just don't. Um, they're weird. You can tell that they're shy, and they're just a little extra shy. They're very similar to like blood pythons. They're not mean or aggressive snakes. They're shy snakes, and they don't tolerate incorrect holding well. I mean, you can't swing them around like a corn snake and just go, oh yeah, I mean, like they don't tolerate that, as where you know other like BCIs, or they're kind of just like, oh yeah, whatever. Like I mean, most of them are pretty mellow in that regard. But yeah, longtails they don't really want interaction with you. They just kind of but I mean, I hold them. I mean, but yeah, you can tell they're shy, and they just a lot of fast movement and stuff like that. They're not going to put up with that kind of stuff. I mean, but that being said, I mean, if you work with them enough, they're going to be tame and handleable. I mean, a lot of my customers hold theirs all the time, and always report back with that they're real mellow and easygoing, and that's just not my experience. But I also have a lot of snakes, and so I don't get the amount of time that a lot of other people do to handle them. And most of the animals, even adults, their entire life, they've basically been moved from one cage to the next so I could clean that cage and moved back, and that's about all the interaction they have with me, other than when I go in there to give them water, or
Take a picture.
I'll take a picture of them or offer them a food item. So I'm pretty fortunate, really, when you think about it, that there's a lot of, pretty much all my adults are pretty mellow, when you consider that I'm not spending that much time with them. I mean, some things, I spend I mean, obviously I hold things here and there, and um, especially animals that I'm going to use for education. I go in and really like push them to their limits and stuff. So I don't have a bad reaction when I have a little kid holding it or something. But yeah, I mean, all things considered, I mean, with pretty minimal handling, most stuff tames down pretty well. I mean, at least with most of the species that I work with. I mean, I think the only adult carpet pythons that would bite me in my collection are my jungles.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's about it. All my other coastals are mellow. My Brettles are mellow. I mean, yeah. I mean, even my boas and stuff. I mean, they're
Mostly talk.
They're mostly talk, and that's it. They'll hiss at you and stuff, and then they won't actually bite you. I mean, but
you mentioned a couple times education. So what exactly do you do?
so I do classrooms, and I did a music video once. That was
Wait.
cool.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go into more detail about that.
So, a LA band from Australia. They moved from Australia to LA to start their music careers or whatever, and they were like a little punk band, very grunge rock, like Nirvana meets uh, you know punk, I guess. That's the best explanation. But they had a song called Venom, and they wanted snakes in it, and so they actually filmed up here at the Madonna Inn, the famous Madonna Inn, which is only about 20 minutes from me. And I went down there, met them in their hotel room, and they filmed in the hotel room.
Pretty high budget music video.
No, it was.
I jumped in mid-story, and I thought you were shooting a porn for a second in a motel room.
Well, that's what happens when you go pee.
Okay, well, funny story.
Oh God.
As we're basically I was just, I was whatever, wherever she wanted or they wanted the snakes. The lead singer was a female, um, and she was basically holding the snakes, or they were crawling around on the couch next to her, um, or up over the top of the couch type of deal. And I was just basically moving the snakes so they were in the shot, or whatever shots they were doing. And she actually asked her bandmates and the film crew, like, that was shooting the video, like, after we had shot a bunch of stuff, she was like, should I get down in my knickers? And and I thought, please God, don't, because uh my wife is gonna watch this, and then she's gonna know that I was standing right next to you in your underpants. Like, I'm like, no, 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 please, please don't do that. Like, I didn't say any of that. Unfortunately, the band said it for me. They were like, no, I think we're good. We got a bunch of good shots. And I was like, yes. Like, like, but no, they were really cool. It was kind of funny that I brought a carpet python with me, and they're from Australia, and I was like, yeah, you can find these in your backyard, like, but no, they were really cool about it, and it was a really interesting video. It was cool. It was fun to do. It only took me a couple hours of my time, and it was fun. But overall, most of the time I do classrooms of all ages. I do both my kids' classrooms for free every year. So it's a lot of fun. I like to do a lot of education if I can. I'll do birthday parties and stuff like that. But
Trying to get him into that, but he's not interested in it.
It's so much fun. Like, we usually bring like a bearded dragon, a box turtle, a corn snake, a bull snake, and a carpet python is kind of our usual go-tos. And man, listening to little kids, like, I always like ask questions and have the kids answer. And then if they get it right, cool, and I'll expand on that note. Or if they get it wrong, I'll correct them, and we'll work that direction. But man, it's fascinating the way kids' minds work. It's like, I always ask, like, what do you think a turtle's shell is made out of? And like, oh dude, like, kids will be like, oh, they're made out of rocks, and like, he carved it out of wood. Like, I don't know, it's like, sometimes it's like, it's so much fun to listen to a kid's imagination of how some of these things work and stuff. It's a lot of fun. And then sometimes they totally surprise you. And like, me and two of my buddies were doing, we went, they actually were up for Carpet Fest, and I had a show, classroom presentation that morning before Carpet Fest that night. And so they came with me, and um, we had one kid, like, talking about ontogenetic changes and stuff, and
Lord.
I'm like, whoa, you're in fourth grade? Like, it was really surprising. Like, all of us were looking at each other like, holy shit, this kid's smart. Like, but no, it's so much fun. Honestly, I mean, I started doing it when I first got into reptiles, for the Children's Museum. Um, and so it's just something I've always really enjoyed. Reptiles are, well, like, I grew up afraid of snakes. And if I had had someone like myself come to my classroom when I was a kid, maybe I wouldn't have been afraid of snakes. I mean, and, I mean, to me, that's like, I mean, reptiles are, so misunderstood that it's like, if more and more people can share that passion with others, it's it's nothing but good things for reptiles in general. I mean, You know, I mean, I constantly have people come to my table when I'm at a reptile show, and they'll start asking me about just like basic reptile questions. And I mean, and it's like, they're obviously not going to buy anything from me. I mean, most of the species I work with are, more advanced anyway. But, I still answer all their questions, and, I'll sit there for 45 minutes, talking about whatever questions they have. I mean, because that's, that's what it's all about in the end is, sharing our passion with, other people. I mean, I was a kid. I was a kid years ago that didn't know anything about reptiles, so you know, I mean, you got to start somewhere.
Absolutely. That's a great way to end the podcast. We made it 2
Very
hours.
positive note.
Absolutely. So Travis, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And how can people get in touch with you?
We have a YouTube channel at Living Legless. We have a Facebook page, same thing, Living Legless. You can find me on our website, Living Legless. Excuse me, livinglegless.com. Yeah, we're Instagram. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to check out our stuff, and we're pretty active on all social media, and even our website's updated pretty regularly. So yeah.
And so what do you have to say?
Oh, we didn't talk about it earlier in the
What?
beginning. We didn't plug Southeast Carpet Fest.
Oh, snap.
We forgot. Southeast Carpet Fest, May 4th and 5th. It's at Ryan Sullivan of Ivory Connections house land area.
Land area.
Yeah.
In Elmo, Texas. If you want more details about that, you can hit me up. You can hit Ryan up. You can hit up
Evan,
and all that good stuff. Otherwise, PortCityPythons.com. You're listening to us, whatever, you know where to find us. Travis, can you hang out for a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. I don't know if you want to. There's a bunch of people on YouTube if you want to show off some snakes if you have time.
Yeah, absolutely. What does
Right,
everybody
cool.
want to see? I mean,
yeah. I'm gonna turn off I'll just edit it out on the download, and then we'll just do the
I want
video.
to see the. Oh shoot!
I guess we'll
I gotta pull up
our own request first.
Yeah, we go before.
well, yeah, you're the hosts. I mean, we gotta make the hosts happy first.
It's the bull, one of the bull snakes. Why are you playing that?
I think you were talking about actually a Florida king that we saw.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Oh yeah,
The male.
I had some
Florida kings.
I had some terrible luck with that group. I bought some Florida Kings because I was like, oh man, I miss having king snakes. And then as soon as I got them, I kind of remembered why I don't have king snakes. And but and so I was like, I've got too many different species, and these kind of don't fit into my other stuff. And I was like, I'll sell them. And I turned around, I started selling some, and then that last final pair hadn't sold, and so I was like, well, I'd already put them down for hibernation with my bull snakes, and so I was like, well, I'll just breed them. And I woke them up from hibernation, like I said, 2 weeks ago, and out of nowhere, 3 days later, my female died. Like, just died. I mean, came home one day, and she was dead. Like, I don't know what happened. It's not very often that I just have things randomly croak on me, so I was pretty shocked. And but so yeah, so now I have a lone male who's hibernated and ready to breed, and nobody to put him with.
And those Colubrid males go fucking crazy during when it's ready to breed.
Oh yeah. So let's see here. Let's see if I can get him on screen here.
There you go. Oh, let's see if we can switch to you.
Mm-hmm. I like that one.
They're cool snakes. I mean,
So that's I was right? That's a Florida.
yeah, it's a white-sided Florida that's het anery and het lavender.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And I mean, those are stereotypical.
They're cool.
I mean, from what I've seen, you put a rat in there or whatever, and they fucking roll around with it and freak out.
Yeah, yeah, they feed. They actually Backlot's pythons feed like that too. Yeah, even my olive pythons kind of feed like that. Like they just wrap around and they kind of whip around and they're very wild about it. Like, yeah, they like wrestle it. Like, um, they're cool snakes though. I mean,
Yeah.
I had them years ago and sold them all off and I kind of on a whim bought some and but I have so many different things and things on my wish list and it's like they were kind of a whim purchase and I was like, well, I just maybe I don't need those, but
What do you have as far as what we need to see? There's a list.
You were trying to like form the question
rosy
differently.
boas.
We like your rosy boa.
We need to see that patternless bull snake that I think I saw.
We got to cap our list at some point.
Let me see if I can switch the camera here. See if this works. Can you?
It's you.
So
and it's black now.
Now it's black.
Yeah.
Well, that's not. Oh, I'm so.
You got a case on or something, or your finger over?
Case is my. I had the kickstand on my belt clip on the phone. You see my racks now?
Back your face.
Oh my god! Come on, phone.
There you go. There you go.
Don't touch it.
Okay, don't touch it.
Okay, I see all the blue painter's tape that you're talking about.
Yeah, that's my blue painter's. That's my blue painter's tape. See, I got dates and stuff like that. Let's see, what do we got? So these are cool. Of course, it's in shed, but
is that the Bay of LA?
Yeah, this is a Bay of LA.
I like that name. I just think that's cool.
They're a Baja locality rosy boa. But these guys as adults are like that orange is bright red, and that orange will be bright red, and they're like red and gray. Mm-hmm. They're just really neat snakes. Those are produced by all my rosy boas are produced by my buddy Andy at Area Reptiles.
Do you keep them just like colubrids?
Yeah, this is an adult female scage. She's not quite an adult female, but I mean, she'll get a little bigger. But I mean, these are the 35 short tubs, so they're the same height as a hatchling tub, but they're the width of like a sweater box. But yeah, that's as big as that's the biggest cage she'll ever be in. And you're
doing all locality specific.
This is an adult male in a hatchling tub.
I love that.
That's like chocolatey.
Yeah, they're called the Harquahala Mountain Rosy Boas. They're also known as the chocolate rosies.
Ah, that makes sense.
They're that kind of like they get that like reddish orange chocolate. I don't know. They're hard to describe, but that's an adult. That's as big as he's gonna get. And then I have these. This is a Magdalena Plains. They're as babies, they're either black, or as adults, they're either black and cream like this, or they'll be black and gray. Their most popular name is in the pet trade is the Mexican rosy boa, but they're neat. This
Brandon-
is actually my dog.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Brandon asked if your rosies try to eat your fingers when you hold them.
They try and eat me, but somehow my daughter is a rosy boa whisperer, and they don't bite her. But yeah, they like to nip and bite at your. I mean, they're pretty. They're like, I don't know. They're weird. They're good pets. Like as far as like a beginner, like first time snake keeper. They're just as good as a corn snake, but I mean, but they do, you do have to get past it a little bit. Look at, here's the one of only two ball pythons.
There you go. What is it?
The Coral Glow Pastel Pied.
Oh, well, it sounds expensive. So at least you got a.
It's very expensive. It hurt the pocketbook.
When you
Sure.
just say a bunch
I
of
gotta
words
rate-
and then you say pied, it just. I know it's probably legit.
These are, of course, it's in shed. Okay, hold on. Let's see if the male is. Nope. All right. So this is the Costa Rican. This is the San Isidoro Costa Rican boa. This is a BCI, but it's a island locality. So they get to be about 4 feet.
I mean,
5
is
feet.
that essentially only a BCI because there's not a study done to separate them?
Yeah.
Because I'm saying
BCI
doesn't look fucking normal, right?
No. BCI is BCI absorbs all island localities, also all Mexican boa constrictors and Central American boa constrictors are all BCI. But that's just basically because they haven't done enough research to separate them. But I'm under the belief that BCI really needs to be broken up into subspecies at the very least. And some of these island localities that have been separated for so long probably are indicative of full species status. Here's my in shed
There's a Candoya.
Candoya male. He's deep in shed and apparently needs fresh water. He decided to dump it all out. He's good at that. Oh, we didn't talk about these. I have. Oh, they're super dirty, of course. But I have.
Leopard gecko.
Wow.
Leopard geckos.
But they're not legless.
We came back. We came back with. I know. We came back. We came back with two of those from the last show we were at.
Was that a kid's motivated purchase?
They're my daughter. They're my daughter and sons. So here's. Well, I screwed up again. Okay. So this is probably gonna bite us, but.
Oh no! I like how its head is in the tipped water bowl.
No,
Or no, its head
it's
is over there. Never mind. Tail's in tipped
That
water
is a
bowl.
bowl of sorts.
I don't know.
That's
It's not wanting to get clear for us.
that's the Kankakee or the Kingsvilles.
Nice.
I have a pair of Kingsvilles. These guys are kind of cool. Oh, why is everything in shed? Everything's in shed. And everything's dirty because tomorrow's cleaning day. These guys are cool. The white-sided bull snake.
Yeah, I love the white side. Whether
Yeah.
it's like the white-sided black rats or licorice rats or
The
white-sided
white side's
bulls
a
or just
cool. It's a cool look for
yeah.
sure. These guys are cool. This is the Stillwater. Let me get better lighting. This is the Stillwater bulls. They're just a neat locality.
Mm.
Where's my Kingsvilles? My Kingsvilles.
Whoa.
Or not Kingsvilles, Kankakees.
I was about to say, yeah.
What don't I look like? This is Happy.
Oh, so that's the
The
patternless.
patternless.
Yeah.
That's the patternless Stillwater hypo.
I like that.
You see him rattling his tail?
No.
Well, he looks nice.
Come on. Give us a show.
Not into it.
Dude, I guess you experience the same thing. Like they just fucking ruin everything. Like if I have a water bowl, even the bedding, they'll put it all to one side or something, like
Oh yeah.
just wreck
Yeah,
everything.
bull snakes will wreck their cage every time. That's why I only keep them in racks.
Mhm.
Because I mean, you give them a full cage and they'll just listen. I mean, this little yeah. See, look, she's filled her water.
Someone just
Bedding.
commented in the chat and they said, well, not someone, it's Kevin, you know him. Why do his snakes hate water? Like,
No, it's
Yeah,
just bulls are
they're
assholes.
yeah. They let's see, what do we got here?
we had our first ever corn snake tipped water the
That
other
doesn't
day.
happen very often, but everyone
Uh-huh.
else.
The white-sided. Terrible lighting. That's an adult white-sided female. What do we got?
Yeah, we can't make it out that much.
Yeah, the internet doesn't want to play nice.
There's an albino white-sided.
That looks nice.
How does that look nice? You cannot see that. I cannot see anything.
I can.
It's
Well, I can
super.
fill in the blank. What
Yeah,
you
I
don't
can't
know.
fill in the blank.
Is it really blurry?
Yeah,
Hold on,
it's
let's
pretty
see.
pixelated.
We'll
I think it's just our
clean-
connection because we suck
Oh.
at
Yeah,
the
it's
internet.
just so Hangouts doesn't like moving people.
That
Like,
does look
oh,
better.
but you did
though.
make it. Whoa. Okay, never
I don't know
mind.
why it looks better.
Doing whatever you just did made it look a lot better.
Well, so I work on a ranch and I get hay all over the place all the time, and it's regularly gets in my phone case, and so it was just on the camera part of the phone. What else we got? This is a trumbo or hypo, so I have both types of hypo, melanism and bull snakes.
So
So I have
the
this-
Trumbauer are bred more for the reds, and the
Yeah, the
Stillwaters are more
Trumbauers-
kind of patternless yellow.
The trumbars as babies are kind of hard to tell. They just look like normals almost. They're just a little lighter. But as adults, they get the red saddles,
Mhm.
and they kind of have this like muted brown color everywhere else. But still like interesting looking in their own right, you know.
Have people bred them together? Are they compatible?
No, they're not compatible.
Mm.
You breed them together, you get double hets. So this is the Stillwater hypo, like a normal Stillwater
blurry
hypo. So you get like, as where like this will continue to get brighter and brighter yellow.
Right.
The Trumbors get more orange and brown. So, I mean, depending on what you're looking for in, you know, a mutation, I mean, they're both really neat in their own right. I mean, this is a baby, and so this is going to get, you know, really yellow. But it's weird. It's like a steady increase of yellow on the Stillwaters, as where like the Trumbors, after a couple sheds, you can pretty much kind of see what they're, you know, they're already gonna,
Look like.
you know, get that red.
Yeah.
He's posted up in the corner,
Ready to go.
ready to go. This girl's cool. This is an albino.
Yeah, that's cool.
Ooh.
She it's pretty weird. Like the albinos, if you look at a normal albino, the normal albino has like the red saddles,
Mm-hmm.
and then the albino doesn't have that.
But I like the
They don't-
tail of the.
They don't
normal
ever get the
albinos.
red. Yeah, the normal albino's tail is that real like stark white stripes, as where
Uh-huh.
the albino tail is like still kind of like the rest of its body. It's kind of that
Right.
muted.
Right. Much more muted.
Yeah, the whole body is red is muted, so it ends up being.
Well, that's
But
why
honestly,
I love those
this-
San Diegos, the albinos.
This is my favorite mutation of bull snake. This is a trumbo or hypo white-sided. And they get this like ghostly pattern on them,
Mhm.
but they still have the. See if I can get a good shot of her face, but no, she's gonna dart right into the back of the cage. But they have that like ghostly pattern, but they have these still stark black eyes,
Mhm.
like a leucistic would. So
Let's go, Liasis.
olive python.
Oh.
Yours is much
Yours
better
is much
looking than
browner.
ours.
No, it's just different. It's
Ours is more of like greenish. Like
Well,
yours.
this is deep in shed.
there you go, asshole. They all look the same.
She's
God.
deep in shed.
Ours
She's more
doesn't look
green.
like ours doesn't look like that in shed.
Fuck off.
She's more.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm hurting feelings. So
She-
I'll be quiet.
This
They're
is
all
above my
green.
head.
Greenish snakes.
That one was like brown
That one,
golden. That was like golden.
I thought it was a gold phase white lip at first, to be honest.
That one looked very golden and orangish.
I don't know where he is. I don't see him.
Wait, we
There
saw
he-
him.
Well, we saw someone.
Oh, there he is.
I guess he was
Alright.
holding the camera higher than himself. Okay, yes, he looks more like ours. Once,
Well, that looks like it's an olive.
That's a male olive,
yeah, that one looks like ours.
Yeah.
and he's gonna key up on me. And here's my food. What else we got? Lonely male blood python. Deep in shed, because that's just the way of things. Jakarta deep in shed. I hate my life. Ooh, freshly shed Jakarta.
What
Is that a male or a female?
This is a female.
Okay.
She's
So, I mean,
not
that's really
as
that big.
she's not as melanin as her brother and sister,
Mhm.
but still is looking long.
Mm-hmm.
She just kind of kept more of that. Honestly, the coolest part of the longtails is that head, that like spear on the head. She's not the best looking one that I got, but see if my dead.
Does lineage matter for them? I mean, like, does the blackest animal mate the blackest animal, or is it a crapshoot?
It's still a little bit of a crapshoot. I mean, when you compare, I don't have either one of his that female's sister or brother not in shed to show you the difference, but the male and female that I have from that same lineage is much dark. Well, you can tell even in shed, this animal is much darker
Yeah.
and has a lot more melanin, a lot of silver in it, and which you can't see when it. But yeah, I mean you definitely want to pick animals. Here's a good looking one.
Oh, it's blurry.
Want to pick ones that come from good looking parents.
These all derive from
Some long tails.
from Vin Russo.
No. There was a fair number of them brought in. So you can get like Eugene Bassett has his own line of longtails. So I mean, you can find other everything's in shed. Oh crap!
Is that in Argentine?
Well, yeah, this is in Argentine.
But that's just a funky pattern.
I like the circles with the
like
more
there's little
stuff
bow
in
ties
them.
in them. Yeah, that is pretty
Like
badass.
most
I didn't
have
even know.
circles, but there's not anything in those circles. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't really know anything about Argentine. That's the first time I think I've ever seen an adult Argentine, to be honest.
Well,
Pretty
I
cool.
googled one, and that one was
Yeah,
cool.
so-
There was one on Reptile Report that's like black but has red circle stuff. It just looks cool.
Here's a big.
Oh, we're skipping now.
Yeah, it's not liking this. Totally frozen.
Oh shit!
Oh, well.
I like
no.
want to focus it.
Yeah, that's not how it works. It's just
We missed that one. It's skipping like a motherfucker. Right
Oh,
now.
you didn't see the Argentine?
Nah.
It never
Well, here.
froze.
It's just skipping like crazy.
Yeah, it might be a sign of the times.
Sign of the times.
Here's my Maclots female.
There's Maclots.
Just shed.
And I mean, they're honestly a little bit smaller than I thought as an adult female.
But
Can you hear us? We're losing
it's a
you.
big tub.
It doesn't like when we move around.
Nope.
It doesn't like when you're moving.
Yeah, we just missed. But you think that's prelay? Hopefully.
I hopefully.
Now we got it. Yeah, I mean that's a sweet snake.
She I mean, this is a big tub. I mean, you think about that.
It's like a boa.
That water. Yeah, this is the boa tub. So this tub here is a 35 quart sweater box.
Mm.
So I mean, it's almost 2 of them wide. You could basically almost fit 3 sweater boxes in it. I mean, it's a good sized tub. And yeah, they could get bigger. I mean, and I'm sure eventually she will. But
Do you find? I see you have a giant water bowl in there. Is humidity an issue?
No, I've never had a bad shed from a Maclots. But last year I didn't get any success breeding them, and my buddy Brandon, who produced them, was like, every time he ever saw them lock up, we're in the water. So I was like, okay.
That's
so I
fucking
put
weird.
so I put in a big sweater box full of water. And they didn't lock once in the water, but they did lock up. So, I mean, so I'm probably going to stick with it,
Yeah.
But if that is a pre-laid shed, that water's coming out just in case. Because I don't want to lay her eggs in the damn water.
Right.
Nice looking coastal.
Is that I'm trying to see.
Just an adult female normal coastal.
Okay.
7 feet, probably 10 pounds, maybe 8
Now,
pounds. Maybe.
People are asking for Sumatrans. Do you have Sumatrans to show us?
Sumatran blood pythons?
Yeah.
I have one. My male's at Cusco's house,
Oh yeah.
so this is the only one I got.
Adult male.
Yeah, this is an adult male. His name's Scarface, mainly because he has this crazy scar on his face. But he was like a wild caught animal that I got back way long time ago, and
Before you knew any better.
yeah, I mean he's still a cool snake. He's got this cool like orange stripe down his side that you can't really see because it's filled up. But what else we got? Oh, here we'll grab it. Candoya carinata.
Oh, there you go. That's that female.
Yeah, this is the female that male's been locked up with.
Can
Looks
you
like she's been
tell if
shed.
they're ever gravid or?
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely swollen. And she hasn't eaten anything, so possible. But would I say, for sure? No. I mean,
Yeah.
but that's because produced. And I have.
That's the male,
But
or that's a male.
no,
Oh, that's
this is a female. She tried to eat the male, so she's on time. She's on timeout this season. The what else we got? This is that Michael Pinnell caramel coastal.
His snakes are so nice. We were at NERBC this just a week ago or so, and he vends, and just someone who actually like goes through on their coastal products for the last like 25 years. It's crazy to see.
Actually, the thing I'm actually shooting for, coastals are so underrated. Like, but I'm really shooting for this guy to have some offspring and do some and just make more like him. So when you look at this, what would you say this is?
I would say that there's jungle in a coastal,
right?
Or maybe an Aryan Jaya or a Papuan, but there's no reds in it, but it's fucking yellow and black.
So that's a pure 100% coastal carpet.
Who produced it?
Nick Mutton.
Oh shit. Is this like some type of line he's working with?
No, actually, I lied. I totally lied. I produced this.
You produce the shittiest jungles, dude.
Yeah. Or the best coastals, whichever you'd like to pick. No, that I produced that from a pair that I got from Nick. This is this female we checked out is its mom, and then a caramel male is his dad, and he.
But there's definitely no caramel in there, is there?
No, he's not a caramel. He's a normal. And but he came out kind of normal, coastal looking. I mean, and then after 2 years, kept getting brighter and I was like, well, crap. Like he was like, and I was like getting yellower. I was like, okay, I gotta keep. And,
is that indicative of the line that Nick was working with, or is that just that particular animal?
That's that particular animal. I produced animals from the same clutch that just but that particular animal just came out really, really black and yellow,
Mm.
and so I'm kind of I want to like a line breeding project with him and see routinely produce animals that are going to be that black and yellow. Coastals are so jungles. Everything's about the jungle, and to me, it's like I think it's way prettier. And
Well, there is a group of people who think that they're the same thing. So,
like, this is a coastal.
no way.
Yeah.
Even the pattern on that is a little wacky.
Yeah, this animal in general is kind of wacky as far as his pattern, her pattern. But hold on, she's escaping. You're gonna have to go in the. Here we go. You're gonna go right there.
Thank you so much.
I think that's a snake face.
Wait, yeah, and we can see the reflection of you in the, in the tub.
It's a nice little caramel. Yeah, like that animal. She's another. She has the same father as that other crazy looking jungle looking male. But a different mother. And she just had kind of a wacky pattern. When you look at the lineage, she actually looks very similar to her grandmother. She's kind of had this weird pattern. So I decided to keep her, but she's getting yellower and yellower and yellower. And so I'm actually going to pair that pair together. And then I'm going to breed that male back till I'm going to breed that male back to the mom as well. And I want to see if I can get, routinely get that real, stark black and yellow look.
What if you end up breeding it into a jungle? Then what do you do? Like it looks like a jungle.
I mean, you can already produce jungles that look like coastals or coastals that look like jungles. And when you look at the mitochondrial DNA, I mean, they're basically the same snake anyway.
So you are that guy.
Well, I mean, a jungle is a jungle locality specific coastal carpet, basically.
Or a subspecies.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
in my opinion, they're a bit on the smaller side.
But they can't be a subspecies because they're already broken into subspecies.
Yeah.
So coastal carpets would then have to become a full species for them to be a subspecies of coastal carpet. But don't get me wrong, I keep them separate. I have jungles and I have coastals, and I would never cross the two or anything like that. But I just having that, jungle looking coastal is probably the best explanation. Is and like to me, it's like it'd be neat to bring coastals a little more into the limelight of people wanting them.
And the only way you're going to be able
to do
their
that high contrast beauty, you know what I mean?
Is having that mutton lineage to where no one's gonna question you about there being a jungle, because people are gonna be like, "Oh, you bred it with a jungle, you asshole."
Oh yeah, well, and I can show you its parents, its grandparents, great grandparents, great great grandparents, and great great grandparents. So they're all coastals.
Bringing it all the way back to the underpants out of Australia or whatever,
Yeah, pretty much. So I mean, I guess there's always somebody that could argue it.
Yeah.
But I mean, to the best of our ability and knowledge, they are pure coastals and are just very high contrast color. But you think about like, we've selectively look at like wild jungles. I mean, they're not black and fluorescent yellow and
No,
jet
they're
black. I
disgusting.
mean, so it's like we've made them that by selective breeding over, the course of the last, 30 years. I mean,
Mhm.
um, you know, and so to me, it's just you coastals can be at that same level as far as wow, that thing's gorgeous or that. I mean, and in my opinion, they already are, but I mean, to the general public, I mean, I guess is what I'm kind of shooting for is like, I want um I've got caramels that are the same way. It's like a lot of people like think of the caramel gene as this like, oh, it's just like a pastel of the world, and I def they are that's a possible super caramel in really terrible lighting, but I mean he's he's like fluorescent yellow. I mean like
Yeah, yeah, that's. I mean, it's just interesting how they age from red to yellow, and some
oh
have
yeah, it's a trip to watch. I
nice
mean,
thick borders, and some have no borders at all.
well yeah, well and that's the hard part is it's like they're highly variable
Hmm.
anyway.
And you don't exactly know what a super is from a normal or from a single gene.
So until you breed it, you
Right.
can't prove that it's super.
And from what I
I
hear from
mean,
people is there can be really good single genes that look like supers and supers that look like single genes.
exactly. Totally can you totally can have supers that you know you would think, or you could have supers that are like that look just like well, that's because they're complete dominant,
Mm,
and that throws people off because there's not that many species out there that are complete dominant.
mm,
Um, it's if you're familiar with um, hypoboa constrictors, that's the same thing. They're a complete dominant gene. The super and the single gene are visually the same. They, but, um, and you can have extremes with either one. You can
mm,
have a single gene hypoboa that looks a little more extra special. And the same goes for the caramels. You could potentially have a normal caramel that's just, a really, really nice example of a single gene caramel that, you
mm.
know, looks more super than, not. And it's
Right.
still just a single gene. I mean, my adult female is, I mean, probably in shed because it's just the way of things. Yeah, it's in shed. Um, my single gene caramel female, I mean, is like that. It's like, I mean, you pull it out and you're like, oh wow, that's a really really nice caramel. I mean,
Mm,
is that a super? No, it's not. It's for sure not a super because it was the caramel bred to a normal. The mom's a normal coastal. But you know, so yeah, you have, and I think that being that they're mixed like that or could be both, I think that throws a lot of people off. Or
mm,
people want, well, I guess at the end of the day people want instant results,
yeah.
and so they don't like that doesn't kind of fit into the perfect, like it's either a codom or it's a recessive. Well, it's not either one of those. So I mean, it doesn't fit nicely into that, and I think it throws a lot of people off. And
Someone
then-
that preserves the
No,
work that
stop.
you're doing
I'm
with.
cutting you off.
Okay.
I'm cutting both.
I
y'all
got well.
off.
I gotta edit
I'm
this
sorry.
podcast. And
Well,
it's 11.
I know y'all could talk for literally another hour, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
11 o'clock
Easy.
here, and it's midnight on the
The
East
East
Coast, and I'm tired and have work tomorrow.
and I gotta edit the podcast.
And we are at almost 3 hours. Our podcasts usually go for like 2 hours. We were at almost 3 hours, and like people are still asking questions in the chat. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but I'm
It
ignoring.
could go. As
I'm
long
ignoring
as it-
you
Okay.
because it's 11 o'clock and I have life things.
I wake up earlier than you. Though.
Okay, but I actually have to wake up early, so shut up. But again,
Thank you, Travis, for showing showing us all your
No
animals and talking to us and being cool.
I'm sorry.
No, I totally get it. I gotta wake up myself super early, and tomorrow
yeah, but
I
it's
get
only
to
9
not.
o'clock your time. It's not fair. Well, it is fair.
Yeah, I still have to go eat dinner.
Oh,
Holy
see,
shit.
you feel like an asshole now. You
Well,
kept
dude-
him this long.
Thanks for coming
Well,
out. We'll have to do it again.
Oh yeah, we'll wait till we have some stuff hatching out, and then we'll have a lot more fun stuff to talk about.
Oh yeah, and we should go to Carver Fest on the West Coast.
We say that about all of them. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay,
Yeah,
stop
it's
talking.
it's a lot of fun.
Stop talking.
We're gonna start talking
Turn
about
your-
Carver Fest
Turn your
now.
voice off.
right. I'm gonna click the button.
End it. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.